Hello, everyone. I hope you had a good meal and that you didn't eat too much or else you're going to sleep. My talk is about pragmatic development and about API platform, the Pragmatic API framework. And I'm going to show you how. First thing first, a big round of applause for this new Laravel stuff. Really excited. Thanks to everyone for the work. Many of you love the Lambo, really nice. About me, my name is Antoine. Here you see that I do lots of stuff, not only coding, I do build stuff, I do a little bit of mechanics, I'm a biker, and recently also a father, which is great. I'm the API platform release manager for 3 years, I would say. And really, since API platform 3, I'm really enjoying what we are building today and what we will build in the future. About pragmatic API development with API platform. I do a lot of workshops where I show you how to use API platform, what we recommend, etc. Don't fight the framework. Really, if something like, be comfortable with what you use. In API platform, you can enable or disable the features you need or you don't need. You need to decorate our extension points. They are there for that. For example, the IRE converter, providers, processors, etc. API platform already segregates commands and queries. It was built as a command and query segregated framework. Don't build a new layer of TQRS on top of that. It's nonsense. APIs are not always about CRUD, right? It's not only create, read, update, delete. With API platform, you can create a remote procedure call endpoints. Really, you have many possibilities to do whatever you want. And I will show you that into the details. Who here does not code at all? Okay. I hope that you like code because I have lots of code to show. So the first thing about enabling or disabling feature, I really have here the whole list, the exhaustive list of what you can do, because most of you, or many people, don't actually know every feature. So here we are on a post operation. We see that we can enable or disable the read part, which will call the providers. You can enable or disable write, which calls the processor. So basically, a post operation never reads, but you can force it to read, and then it will call your provider, right? About serialization, same thing. You can disable deserialize, disable serialize. This will either transform the request body to the resource class or not, transform the provider's response to JSON or not. You can disable validation. Validation is, for example, enabled on every route that does a write operation except delete, but sometimes you can enable validation on a delete operation. Query parameter validation can be also disabled. And we have the two last things. Output false will just say, I don't want to return anything. And OpenAPI false disables the OpenAPI documentation. Now about state providers and processors. Here I used a put operation. And now, since API Platform 3.3, you can add this allow create true, which means that even if an object doesn't exist yet, you can create it using a put operation. Remember that put replaces the content, ideally. So in this example, the provider can return nothing or can return something that we found, and in that case, it will be replaced by the body given inside the processor. I said earlier that you could decorate providers, so here is a basic example. I didn't put any auto-wiring stuff, but you can add it yourself, knowing what framework you use. And I put on top both Laravel and Symfony namespaces, because this is exactly the same thing. So here we create our own provider, and we decide to call API Platforms 1, which is where there is a bit of magic, and then do whatever with the data. You can decide not to call it to change the data, or do whatever. And what's really great about providers is that you can bring any data source you want. Who here did already use the PDO object? Okay, I thought it would be more. So this is really low-end code in PHP, where we do all by hand. Usually we would prefer to use Doctrine, Eloquent, or whatever. This perfectly works. Another example is to use, for example, here, another API as data source. So I just use JSON decode and file get contents. Obviously, in a perfect world, you would use an HTTP client. By the way, I think that Nicola Greca speaks tomorrow about consuming HTTP APIs the right way. And obviously, you can use this code inside a provider to get some data. Use your favorite query builder. So I have answered lots of questions already today, and most of the time I'm speaking about this new extension point. There is a way to extend how we do the linking inside API platform. Let me take an example. When you fetch some data, sometimes, so most of the time we try to do magic stuff and already try to predict where your data is. But most of the time, this also means that the query gets really big and is really not performant at all. So to do this, we can't find a perfect solution for everyone. We just provide this handle links. So it can be a service. It's links handler. And this service will just give you a builder or the Doctrine query builder. And you can say where books auto ID my URL variable. So this way you can just say, okay, API platform doesn't work like I want, just go there, take the data using my where query, and I don't want to hear about your errors or struggling or whatever. Last thing I want to show you is a basic remote procedure call endpoints. I know it's not ideal, but most of the times we may need this. I don't know, Susie from the communication part wants to send a big Excel file, so you can do this using a processor like this. You are not convinced? Okay, let me show you some more stuff. Why you should use API platform? So the first commit was done by Kevin almost 10 years ago. It's a REST-oriented API framework that supports many standards out of the box. You don't need to program anything. JSON LD, JSON API, etc. It has automatic documentation, many URI-based mechanics that we will talk a little bit more about that later, like cage, live updates, etc. And obviously, it also already has content negotiation, validation, authorization, all the boring stuff. Oh. The power, let me retransition that. I will now speak to you about the power of edge-side APIs. So edge-side APIs is an architectural pattern that Kevin kind of imagined after experiencing many years of working on APIs. So we have this new website, edge-side-api.rocks, where you have a white paper, a bunch of stuff explaining it. The idea is to have atomic resources to pre-generate the more you can. Use HTTP cache, preload the data, and push what you can. So I prepared a small demo here. I hope it's not too small. You see that on the right side, I have this JSON object representing a collection of books. Let me just play a little bit with that, then I will explain each part. So here the idea is, you can imagine that there is a big user interface behind that. But basically, I had to open 2 new books and therefore needed to do 2 fetch in JavaScript. Now, let's say I want to get this author here, and it's broken. No. And basically, the author Kevin here was brought here and here, doing another fetch request. Now, on the left side, I have this small form, and actually this is plugged into Mercure and will live update everything. So for example here, let me pick the author and say, no, Kevin did not wrote this book, I did. And this will be propagated to our client and live updated everywhere. The thing is, if some of your buddies that are front-end developers need to build something like that, they will say, hey, can you give me one endpoint with everything inside it, please? And this is really what Edge-Side API is about having really small atomic resources. But then they will say, yeah, but I need to call my fetch function for each books and then for each author, and I don't want to do this. I have a solution for you. So, up. Need to be, yes. I put this software online a few months ago, and the idea is to bring you some kind of alias of fetch that will be used just once to do all the fetching of your API, so that you will be able to embrace these edge-side APIs. So let's say you fetch a book. Actually, you get this JSON response, and you see here my author is again an URI. So if I want to get the data behind the author, I need to fetch it again, right? So let's see like that. Fetch author /1, I will get my author. Now, let's don't do that, but instead, we are going to use this new linked data fetcher. And you will just say, fetch the books, and actually plug in some kind of pattern. So this is inside your browsers already, right? It's an URL pattern. And you say, for every author that you find, or every URI that looks like this, you will fetch it automatically. Which means that using the console log on the bottom, this will do the fetch for us. And then we kind of solve the problem that front-end developers have, just requesting fetch, fetch, fetch again. On the Edge-Side API.rocks website, I have many examples with React query, with SWR, all the front-end stuff you want. It's compatible with that. You fetch one time your resource, you say every pattern matching that will be fetched afterwards automatically. The next thing we use in this small demo I showed earlier is API platform /Mercure. So it's again JavaScript. And this will help you just subscribe automatically to the updates. I hope that you all know about Mercure. I will do a small parenthesis about that later on. But basically, when you fetch an author using API platform, you get this link header that you see below, well-known Mercure. And this gives us the ability to subscribe to the author topic and get live updates. So about Mercure, who doesn't know Mercure here? Oh, everyone knows it. Perfect. It will be compatible with Laravel Echo and Laravel Broadcast, just as Kevin said this morning. If you need high availability, it's also on the website. So this is really powerful, and we still love it. About that, Alison talked this morning about real-time message handling and notifications. If you didn't see her talk, you can see it on replay soon. So basically, using these both tools, I had to do only like 3 lines of JavaScript to do the whole demonstration of earlier on, instead of having many code. The advantage also with the Mercure library here is that it manages only one connection to Mercure and adds the topics when you need them and removes them when you don't need them. So, let's continue about client tooling. I presented these 2 libraries, but we have many more client tools available on our website. One of them that we love is the admin generator that you see on the left side. And I won't get too much into the details, but François will talk about this just after me, I think. So if you're interested in how to know more about this, don't hesitate to stay for this conference. So I hope you got the message about atomic resources that must be small documents. The really big advantage of this is that you get better browser share cache hit rate. Because you only have small resources, then you almost have everything in cache all the time. Hypermedia, obviously, JSON LD, JSON API are perfect for this usage. So this is why we love them. Read our white paper if you want to know more, and don't hesitate to propagate the message. The thing is, how can I build this with API platform? Because usually inside API platform, when you get a collection, you get the result on the left side with members and the books as objects, right? And as I showed you, I have this collection of just URIs inside my member now. To do this inside API platform, you just have to enable the IRE-only true functionality into the normalization context, and you see that you get the proper expected result. To go a little bit further with that, I recommend to group data within IREs. For example, if I want to get all the books of a given author, then I can create this new resource, authors, the author name books, create a link, and then inside my author, I can say, okay, the books property can be actually represented by this URI. And you see on the right side there that I get an author, and my books is not a collection of books, but it's a new URI that you can fetch to fetch the books. And this is really nice because everything gets caged, and you can even do some more magic. About cage, Sylvain will speak about that tomorrow on using a caddy module that's really strong to do a shared cage. The last big feature we can use a lot with this is to preload data as much as we can. The demo I showed earlier, the list of books was already preloaded when the page showed in the browser. This means I had the collection of books, even though I didn't show them yet. And to do this, we are a huge fan of Vulkan, which is also a caddy module that you can plug in and that will help you with early hints and complex stuff. About the subject, I hope that you heard about FrankenPHP, caddy, and stuff like this. If you want to know more, both Falker will talk about this. Don't hesitate to check out this talk to know more. I know that you are all here to know about API platform new features, right? So what's new inside API platform 3.4 and 4.0? The really big functionality I'm the most hyped about is the new query parameter. You may have seen it in Kevin's conference this morning. And so this came out in version 3.2-ish, but we didn't really announce it, we didn't really document it on purpose. I was trying with a few companies to really create something that's enjoyable as a developer and is more powerful than the current filtering system. So here you can see I have a resource and I plugged in 2 parameters. I use the sort parameter, so query parameter sort. Then I have this column property placeholder. To this parameter, I attach a filter that will sort, or order filter here. The second parameter has only this placeholder and uses a search filter. On the documentation, you will see that for each readable property of your resource, it will set sort title, sort description with the available values, and then the property placeholder will just set the list of properties and be able to search with them. Parameters are available on headers and queries, or inside JavaScript, they like to call them URL search params. They have automatic JSON schema validation that you can disable. I showed this earlier on. But if you set, I don't know, minimum 2, then it will validate your parameter. It's compatible with OpenAPI and Hydra. You have this placeholder. And you can finally do better filter composition. So it's quite in the works for Doctrine because we have much work to do to kind of improve the filters, but it already works. There is some documentation up to date. You can check it out later. But for example, inside Laravel, we already have an OR filter that you can use. You can now decorate Doctrine filters, which was quite impossible before. Like you had to copy paste the filters. It was really boring. And you can now do filter aliasing really easily. It's just a filter with a key aliasing to whatever property you want. The next big feature is error management. I talked a little bit about this earlier, but I really wanted to improve, and it was really hard to deprecate things properly. But now we are really up to date with that. Here you see that we have a domain exception, and we put it inside errors. This will automatically document that these endpoints will throw or can return this kind of errors on the docs. For errors, so now any exception can be flagged as an error resource. They are automatically documented, obviously, and I strongly recommend to read our 2 guides here, error provider and error resource, that show you how to really do whatever you want. Note that every exception that is thrown on an API operation will be rendered using the problem details specification. We did this for you. About documentation, Marion has a great talk tomorrow, today, this afternoon, about how to customize OpenAPI documentation. Great. Obviously, the last big feature was the Laravel support. Most of the features we have already are usable in a Laravel project. There are just these two things, authorization and validation, that are Laravel specific because we wanted Laravel users to be they use their own stuff, so we don't want to break everything for them. Read the documentation and please send us feedbacks. It's quite new, obviously, but it should work perfectly fine. And I'm really eager to get your opinions on that. By the way, we have just Steve King or Steve McDougall here that is really well known in the Laravel community that will a little bit talk about how he does APIs with Laravel. I think it's tomorrow. Obviously, we have way more, a new doctrine enum filter. We fixed the default context inside the serializer. This was quite broken, now it's fixed. You can even change the deserializer type. So this is really advanced stuff, but you can change the type if you want to. It's probably a bad idea, but sometimes it's really useful. Inflector is now a service. The inflector is used to pluralize routes. So it's an endpoint that was quite missing and is now available. And you can configure whether API platform overrides your responses or not. This was also quite hard to change. Read the changelog and don't hesitate to say, oh, I think it's missing something. I do make many mistakes. Now, the last part of this conference is how to update from version 3 to version 4, because yes, this morning 4.0.0 came out. Don't worry, it's not like 2 to 3, not a big deal, really, it should be quite easy. First thing, for all the Symfony users, you need to require API platform/core 3.4. This is really the first step. I detailed everything in my upgrade guide. This is important because it will show you deprecations. You need to fix them. It's really, don't upgrade if you didn't fix your deprecations. There is no point. After that, you can finally remove the core dependency and instead pick your components. So here in this example, I install Symfony, and then I add the doctrine ORM component. I do my composer update. Hopefully you have tests, right? Right. And after that, you just pick the components you need. This is a small tree, so with Symfony, you have doctrine, ORM, ODM. GraphQL works with Laravel and Symfony, and many more components that are already available as standalone packages. Right, what changed? So the first thing for Symfony users here, we set use Symfony listeners to false. We don't use them anymore, but you can enable them if you want to. It's your choice. Basically, if you have controllers or event listeners with Symfony, you need to set this flag to true. The put operation will be removed from the defaults. Don't worry, if you set default operation and the whole list, you can get it back, but we strongly recommend to use patch instead to do your updates. And the last big thing that can break your test is the Hydra prefix. So the Hydra prefix will be set from true to false, which means that you, I have a slide for that you will get this Hydra colon removed from the responses. This makes less code in the JSON, and basically the standard suggests to remove this. It's still inside the context of the context/book, but yeah, we can remove it from the responses. So the last thing I want to say here is that if you are missing a class, it probably moved to API platform metadata, okay? Donc, if you look for that, just change the namespace. If you did the updates correctly, you should get deprecations and everything should be fine. About API Platform 3, I really recommend to check the Lukács talk about the challenges they had on migrating Les-Tilleuls to API Platform 3. Yeah. Sorry. After you've done all that, you can easily install API Platform 4 and rest. Take a tea. Enjoy. Thanks.